All right, well, I think it's time, and we have essentially a quorum. So I will call to order the June 6th meeting of the Parks Recreation Forestry Commission meeting. Matt, roll call.
I have the roll. Everyone's present and accounted for.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We need approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you, David. A second.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second. Any corrections, additions, deletions? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as submitted, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. Move to first item of business, election of a chairperson. We can open the table. I've done this. I would enjoy doing it one more time. I don't know. But I guess I'll put my name up for nomination.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll nominate John.
Is that a motion to name John as the chair then?
Is that the way this committee does it? If so, I will make a motion that we nominate John chair.
I will second that motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, none, that's carried. Thank you. Election of a vice chairperson. Nick has been doing it. I would nominate Nick again. I think he's done a great job.
Sure.
I'll second that one as well.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of Nick as Nick Adams as the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. We need an appointee to the Conservancy Lands Committee. David, you've done that. Is that something you're still interested in doing?
Sure. You
All
bet.
right. We have a guinea pig, I mean, a willing. It's just another night of the month, you know, so,
That's right. It's only one.
all right. Well, as an appointment, I think we don't really need a motion, do we, for the, Matt, for this?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I don't remember how the ordinance reads, but the way we have it written here, it's appointment of by the chair. Is that?
All right, well, I would appoint David and then let the committee give me feedback whether they think that's a good idea or not. Anybody opposed to David doing this?
Not at all.
All right, well, David, you're committed. We need a member to the Stormwater Utility Board, and I think that used to be Sue was on there, was her? Yeah, who's not here, so we need a volunteer to sit on Stormwater Utility Board.
And Matt, this is a 2-year appointment?
Yeah, that's what they've tried to do is have these be 2-year appointments. Obviously, a lot can change with committee makeup and, you know, our committees have stayed pretty consistent, but the idea is for consistency purposes, a 2-year appointment.
Until you quit. Yeah, are you interested?
Well, I don't know that I'll be here 2 years from now
Yeah, okay.
because I'm an elected official, so.
Yeah, okay, so it might be good to have an appointed person. Erica, you interested?
I could try.
You're new enough, so you don't know how to say no.
You're new enough. You
It
can,
meets once a month on Wednesday nights, third Wednesday, and if that's,
and if you don't know what's going on, just say I'm new here.
you willing?
Yeah, I could. That's fine.
Give it a try, and if it doesn't work, then we'll bill and do some. So I'm going to go ahead and appoint Erica to that position. Any concerns about that? All right, so be it. Thank you, Erica. Number 5, why is that in green, Matt?
Because I forgot about it and had to amend the agenda, and so I put that in green to show that it was part of the amended agenda.
Have we always had that? It meets the same time as the stormwater utility, and they both give water?
It
We
meets
typically meet back to back.
after. Yeah, back to back.
All right, yeah. I don't know, Kurt, you're looking like you need something to do.
I know how to say no, but
He's
I
not.
will-
Well, somebody else can jump in if they want to do it. I don't. Joan, you want to do it?
I do not have time for another commitment.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna stick with this one.
I can take it, John, if you want me to.
David, I'd love it if you would, but I don't want to overwork you.
No, it's not a big deal. The CLC doesn't meet every month by any means.
All right, well then, if there's no objections, I'll go ahead and appoint you to that position. So,
Okay.
thank you, David. All right, so we move on now to item number 6, presentation on CXC Outdoor Recreation and Sports Center. Matt?
Yeah, is everyone able to see on the screen the presentation?
I'm seeing just the,
Just the agenda.
Okay, let me. How about now?
Yes.
yes, there we go.
I'll see it.
Okay, for some background, over the past 5 years, the city has worked with the Central Cross Country Ski Association, that is shortened to CXC, on development of a outdoor recreation and sports center north of Pleasant View Golf Course. And last year, the city annexed land. The Dan and Natalie Erdman made a donation of 8 acres plus a trail easement, and the city executed a lease agreement with CXC to operate that lease, the donated 8 acres and the trail easement. Phase 1 construction occurred shortly thereafter last fall and created an access road off of Schwartz Road and a 15-stall parking lot. Trying to move my slide here. So a couple things about last year's operation from a cross-country ski standpoint. Over 1,300 passes were sold. A first championship event was held February 5th and 6th. And there were 76 days of trail grooming from December 13th to March 14th. We're now planning and underway on the development of phase 2. Earlier this year, this commission, the finance committee and city council approved a engineering agreement with Weiser Engineering to take a look at a stormwater plan, trail development, and parking lot expansion, and the stormwater really encapsulating the intended future build out of the site. So the phase 2 would then, there's a lot of components of phase 2, and I think phase 2 is going to get broken up into, well, I know phase 2 is going to get broken up into different phases. As we've worked since the initial lease agreement was created and experienced the first winter, our biggest concern is expanding parking moving forward with the amount of use and interest in the facility. We really want to ensure that the parking lot expansion occurs. So later on tonight's agenda, there is a amended lease agreement that is going to prioritize, from the city's perspective, the parking lot and making that part of the city's responsibilities. We are currently responsible for paving some of the ski trail, and that shift in responsibilities would go then to CXC for the trail development. Another big part of phase 2 and another city responsibility, and the reason I think it's important to point out that the reason the city has been as involved with this project as it has is to split the combined use of the parking lot at Pleasant View Golf Course for both golf and mountain biking, to moving the mountain biking focus to this site. And in doing so, we want to also improve the mountain bike park. The gray area kind of shown in the middle of this left-handed depiction is kind of the footprint of the planned asphalt pump track. The city has budgeted $150,000 in the park development fund for that project, being matched by a $150,000 grant from Dane County Parks that the Capital Off-Road Pathfinders, who are our partner with the mountain bike facility have secured. So we have $300,000 in dedicated funding for the asphalt pump track. We approved last year a design agreement with International Mountain Biking Association's Trail Solutions team to design that pump track and take that out to bid. And so what we're trying to do here is start lining things up for that next phase of development. And that's kind of the slides I had on the asphalt pump or on the CXC project. Are there any questions about anything I covered or anything that I can clarify further?
All right, open it to the committee.
I also would share that Yuri Gusev, who's the executive director of the Central Cross Country Ski Association, is on the call and can answer any questions that maybe I'm unable to as well.
Any questions, issues?
So, excuse me,
It's
Matt,
just
how many,
informational at the moment.
how many phases and over what period of time is this going to be, Matt?
So
Until completion.
right. It's everyone's hope that the parking lot expansion and the asphalt pump track projects occur this year and are constructed prior to snow being on the ground for obvious reasons. I think the future improvements to the mountain bike park are going to be based on available funding, whether that is grants, fundraising from Corp, combined grant writing with Corp, or additional funds from the Park Development Fund in the future. The trail development, the paving of trails, the grading of trails, being that that's a CXC responsibility, that is going to be a based on available funds that CXC is able to fundraise. And then the other major component of the project is their training center, their facility. And they are underway fundraising for both the trails and that facility, but I don't want to speak for Yuri there in terms of a timeline of what they hope for.
So Matt, the major activities at this park are the skiing and cross-country skiing, is that correct?
Mountain biking and cross-country skiing, and I think the third future use as the facility is developed is going to be that the trail system be open for walking and hiking in the warm months outside of the cross-country ski season.
Mhm.
Okay.
So with our trading responsibilities on the parking lot, and I can understand why, so that there's more parking, but by us trading responsibilities with CXC, then does that put the development of the trails behind? Or were we looking at, similar timing either way?
So the other critical component that I haven't mentioned is the stormwater pond to manage all of this, and that'll be CXC's first priority. That pond will have to be in and functional for the parking lot expansion and the asphalt pump track to move forward.
And Matt, could I suggest, since item 6 is just a presentation, and item 7, we're really starting to talk about what's on item 7. And I think we'll just say thank you for item 6, and let's move on to item 7 and get a little more specific, because Dan, that's what you're really talking about, which is a First Amendment to the lease between the Cross Country Ski Association and the City of Middleton. So maybe be a little more explicit on exactly what this trade involves.
Yeah. So I think the other benefit is that we've found and we know that the city's bid process and following state bid law, when city funds are involved, makes things a little more rigorous. And that a parking lot is probably the easiest bid project that the city can do. And so therefore, the trail development could get broken into different smaller projects and utilize smaller local construction companies that wouldn't have to bid, but be able to provide quotes to CXC. And there's still a city review and approval process on that work moving forward. And the city would have to be comfortable that CXC has the funds to enter into contract with any of those construction companies. But it gives them a little more flexibility on the trail, because so there's, Yuri, you can jump in here, but I think there's roughly 5 miles of trail. And it's not that all 5 miles need to be graded. There are segments and components of the trail system that need to be graded. And then eventually you identify, when you're going to move forward and pave a segment of the trail. Does that answer the question at all, Dan? I don't want to say that it delays or changes anything. I think it gives us more financial flexibility in how we move forward on those projects.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I mean, my concern is, let's get right down to the basics. Is this a cost issue here? And what's happening in terms of financial responsibility in this trade-off?
So the lease agreement will continue to say, and to go back to 2018, when the city first committed to this project, they committed $420,000 towards the CXC project. And when that money is gone, and you'll note in the amendment of the lease that the parking lot project, the city's funds will be used for the parking lot project, and any amount that the bid is over what the city has for available funds, CXC will need to cover that cost and provide proof to the city that they have those funds available before the city executes the contract with the winning bidder. So the city's obligation is going to stay to that original 420,000. We have at the start of this year, there was roughly 272,000 remaining in that fund, and that includes the contract with Weiser is 49,400. So when you subtract the 49.4 from the 272, that's what's left for the parking lot from the city's.
Is that going to cover these 40 or 50 stalls?
It gets close. It'll really depend on where bids come in, and there's a little bit of an unknown right now. We think this makes sense for fall work, for companies looking for fall work. But we also know that the bid environment, at least this spring, was interesting, and the costs are high. So
it's like filling my gas tank. So maybe I'm dense, but I'm trying to, prior to, if we vote this amendment to the contract, what actually changes?
Just that the city, it clears up the responsibilities of the city and CXC moving forward in terms of what portions of the project. It takes the trail development off of the city's list of responsibilities.
Okay.
And puts the parking lot as the priority project from the city's standpoint.
All right. So the only risk to the city is we build a parking lot in the hopes that the rest will get built.
Well, I would argue that what is built, we did not have sufficient parking for last winter, and it was a constant challenge all winter long. And that this puts us in a much better place to manage the interest in the facility.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
So what if this gets bid out and it's so high that the CXC doesn't want to cover the differential?
We'd obviously then have to come back and work with CXC and bring something back to this body and finance and council that everyone's comfortable with moving forward.
Yeah, maybe Yuri could respond to that question too.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a tricky question. I mean, we're in ongoing fundraising. So the question will be, okay, do we pull the funds from somewhere else that we're committed to? Do we make a parking lot smaller, which is not ideal, again, based on traffic we've seen last winter? I mean, I'm hoping should be enough funds to complete what we planned, but we're not going to know until we get there. We have the bids from contractors.
Yeah. Well, my guess is the sooner we bid, the better.
Absolutely.
not gonna crash in next. All right, thank you. Other questions, comments? All right, Matt, is this something we need a motion to approve this change of contract? Or
Yes,
is-
I would ask that you make a formal motion to approve the amendment, and I would make it pending city attorney final review. I know that's a little bit funny because the city attorney drafted the amendment, but there's always little things that come up between now and this going to council, and this will go to council 2 weeks from tomorrow. So I just make it pending city attorney review.
All right. Well, I'm not hearing any discussion or comments on this thing, so I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion or no motion.
I'll go
Ramsey will
ahead.
make that motion.
All right, who made the motion? I didn't hear who made the motion.
Ramsey will make that motion.
Ramsey and David, did you second that?
I did.
Yeah, okay. All right, we have a motion on the table then to approve the amendment to the lease agreement between the Central Cross Country Ski Association and the City of Middleton. Any discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. We move on then to item number 8, authorization to bid. What we just voted on, I presume.
So there is a plan set in the supporting document. Also, Adam Watkins, who's worked on the project from Weiser Engineering, is on the call if there are any specific questions. But this would provide the direction to get the parking lot out for bid. Those bids would then be brought back to PRFC, Finance, and Council for approval.
All right, discussion. You guys are talkative tonight, okay? Well, since the previous motion was unanimous, I presume that this will be a short one. So I'm hearing no discussion. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, David, do we have a second?
I will
I'll second.
Okay.
Joan will give you this one.
Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, on to item number 9, review of the 2022 Sustainable City Plan draft. They're looking for any comments we might have on this thing. I would think
So-
particularly as it relates to parks, correct?
Yeah, John, if I could, Kelly Hilliard, who's the sustainability coordinator from the city, is also on the call tonight.
Okay.
I want to make a couple comments in general about the plan and give you some time to think. They're asking for feedback by, I believe it's by June 30th. Am I correct in that, Kelly? Yeah. So
Not this month's meetings to do it.
So if you want to take more time, and you could obviously provide comments tonight, or I could put it back on the agenda when we meet in 2 weeks for further comment as well. A couple of initial comments that I have. I think the plan is really good, and it really lays out some good, sustainable thoughts as it relates to parks and conservancy areas as well. The one, and I don't think this is a negative of a plan, but we have lots of plans, and one of my hopes, and this is as critical with the park and open space plan as it is with any plan, is that we also create a financial impact of what these plans mean and put so that when these go through and approve, that we understand how it's being funded, and that, that with approving a plan like this, we understand that in the next 3 years, this is what's going to have to be committed from the parks, capital budget, or the Conservancy Lands operating budget or capital budget, to be able to achieve some of these goals. And that when we approve them, we're also kind of making a commitment that we're going to try and find funds to do some of these projects, or as the plan is reviewed, maybe they need to be stretched out into more years to fit into the city's financial schedule, if you will.
Well, I mean, to open, I got a chance to read through some of it, although it's long, and I, like you, I agree in spirit with the whole thing. And then I started thinking about, okay, so does that mean we got to put solar on top of every park shelter? Does that mean, what do we do with the 10,000 acres of lawn that we have as you know, things? There's a lot of issues involved that I haven't really had a chance to think about in the degree. I don't know about the rest of you, whether you've had a chance to look this over. So, comments?
I've had some chance to look it over, but I share some of the same concerns that Matt brought forward, and that is with any of these plans, we need to have some kind of understanding of what the financial impact is going to be, so that we can determine what we can do for this. Is, if I remember right, this is what, a 3-year plan. And so if we're looking at a 3-year chunk, we kind of need to know what we try to do in those 3 years and what that impact, that cost impact is, because there's so many other things that we're going to have to spend money on. And I don't anticipate, I mean, just by the way the economy is right now, that it's going to be a great budget year this year. So I just share some of Matt's concerns, and for me personally, I wouldn't mind a little bit more time to digest this before making too many more comments. But that's just for me.
So Dan, just a question, because you're on the council. I mean, is a plan something that becomes a rigid, fixed mandate, or is it a guidance?
Well, that kind of depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
Sometimes
Like the latter, you know.
well, if you put it in writing, then there is a certain expectation that that's what's going to happen. Now, obviously, if there isn't the funds, it can't happen. I mean, if you don't have the money, you obviously aren't going to be able to do whatever there is. But by having a plan and putting it in writing, you are committing to trying to do those things. Again, that's why it would be helpful for me to see some kind of cost impact. Matt, when the sustainability folks were putting this 3-year plan together, did they reach out to the department heads at all and ask, you know, what you saw, department heads saw as maybe feasible for the next 3 years, or was there any communication with you folks?
Not prior to the plan being drafted, but I think that's almost the norm with a lot of the planning efforts that occur within the city. And I don't think that's to anyone's fault. It's just there's so much effort that goes into pulling a lot of these plans together that I think we are asked often to react to them as opposed to maybe be involved in the process. The other thing that I want to share is that Mark Wagner and I are going to be kind of putting pen to paper a little bit on what some of these impacts would mean from a financial standpoint, both operating and capital, if there are operating impacts, and share that with Kelly and the sustainability committee, so that because I think that's the longer I've done this work, the more I see the need to have the financial piece tied with some of these goals, because they tend to work against each other, unfortunately. And I think when you can understand the financial impact in the planning process, I think you'll end up with a better result, and hopefully not plans. We have so many plans now that have sat on shelves and haven't been implemented, that you hope with putting the financial kind of messaging with the plan that you're also working more on implementation at that time.
Yeah. Kelly, did you have anything you want to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. I think, Matt, I guess I concur with your thinking that we need time on this. What I would admonish and what I want to do is go back and read through and mull over every part of that plan and say, what and how does this affect parks and what could we do? What should we do in relation to this thing? And then, as you say, put a cost analysis at some level. So I would strongly recommend, unless you have a huge agenda waiting for 2 weeks from now, that we postpone this. We defer the item until next meeting. So anybody disagree or want to?
I'm in agreement.
Okay. All right, so I don't know that we need a motion. We just can defer. Matt, we'll put it on the next agenda. So everybody take a chance really and go through this in the next 2 weeks and think about it from Matt's perspective and others in terms of cost and in terms of actual specific types of ways in which this would impact what we do with our parks. So, all right, thank you. There's no other items. Anything anybody want to share or say, or I would entertain a motion to adjourn if not.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Nick. Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, David. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? We'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Thank you all. Welcome aboard, new members. So
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
good night. Thank you.
Good night.